Well, Chiome, to a bit of an interesting project. I originally tried this a few years ago, but got a bit frustrated with it, and I no longer have the original world that had various different prototypes in it. What this is it is an XP storage silo that will automatically measure out the exact amount of XP that you need to repair netherite. Um, This was a version that I tried out before, trying to get warmed up for it again. I have all my calculations right here, so full armor of netherite has about 2035 durability, requiring about this much XP to fill up. Tools, requiring about this much. Because they're so close, I can essentially treat them as the same. Now, in order to get XP from smelting, there are a few different options, and one of the goals of this project was to make sure that I wouldn't have to babysit it, so I wouldn't have to refill it with either the smeltable or the fuel. So that leaves me with only a few options, namely uh, smeltables, either kelp or cactus. As for fuel, come on, we're gonna go with bamboo for that because it's super fast and pretty much the only fully AFKable fuel source that doesn't lead to other problems. Um, Unfortunately, though, kelp gives you zero point 0.1 XP per smeltable item, and cactus gives you 1 XP per smeltable item. And frankly, even the double speed from using a smoker for the kelp doesn't make up for that huge, huge disadvantage with having to smelt 10 times as much. So we're going to have to smelt about 1018 cactus. That works out to about 15 stacks plus 58 to fully repair your netherite. And the closest that we can get to that, because obviously in order to measure it out, we're going to have to use comparators. So comparators give different signal strengths depending on how full a container is. And the closest I was able to get was a barrel at 8 signal strength, which holds 13 stacks and 32, plus a hopper at 8 signal strength, which holds 2 stacks plus 32, for 16 stacks of cactus. That's only 6 off, so it's close enough, and it's not really going to be a problem if we overshoot it by a little bit. So, while the furnace is smelting, in order to make sure you don't interrupt it, I have it set up for a stair to be pushed up right here. When it's done, the stair comes down and you'll be able to access the furnace. Now, that was not the most difficult part of it, and I kind of need to have this trapdoor right here in order to hide some of that. These, of course, are just for decoration, make it more filled out here. And another one of the goals of this project was to have it be tileable, and have a relatively small footprint. So, if we head out this door, this one doesn't exactly work properly. This one, however, works just fine. So here's its footprint, everything within this concrete area. So, it is 4 wide, 12 long, and 13 tall for the actual mechanical portion of it. These barrels here are purely to measure out, are purely your source, wherever you're getting your cactus and bamboo from. You plug that right in there, everything above doesn't really matter. So, first off, we need to detect when this barrel is full. So, when it's filling up, this hopper underneath it gets locked. There's a lot that goes into one another, and I'm not the best redstoner in the world, so I'm probably not going to be the best at explaining it. But we measure out this barrel first. Have to use a lot of lecterns in here to get the proper signal strength in a very compact area. This lectern is set to 8, so as soon as that gets full, it activates this, which locks this hopper. So that way the cactus will actually come from this, this hopper to be filled into there. And then, when this hopper right here is full, we get the signal of that comparator using this lectern. And when that is properly full, it will lock the hopper above it. So, nice. That will prevent more from being put in. But then, of course, we need to unlock this hopper in order to let it start flowing into the furnace down below. So, this power, when that's on, it also powers this piston to push this redstone block to power this, and finally it'll lock this hopper right here, and it will power this torch, so that way it's off, which then unlocks this hopper. Yeah, it's a bit of a redstone mess. I'm sure someone could clean this up a little bit. Anyway, once that happens, the cactus will begin flowing downward, right here, and start flowing into the furnace. Now, as soon as that furnace turns on, it activates this observer, which will power this sticky piston for 1 tick to push a redstone block right here. I mean, technically speaking, it doesn't have to be a redstone block. It can be any block, because this observer just detects when a block update is there. Actually, I could move it, I think. Yeah. No, I'd rather not right now. Anyway, so it'll activate this observer line all the way here to power this sticky piston for exactly 1 tick in order to push the stair up. And then, of course, when the furnace turns off, eventually, that gate's activated again, and the stair is pulled down, meaning it's ready. Of course, however, we need to measure the output as well, so that way we know when to lock the hopper below the furnace in order to keep the item there, because you need to actually pull the item out in order to get the XP. So, down we go once again, and we have more lecterns to measure it out. This time, however, instead of both set to 8, we set them to 7. Or we set this one to 8, this one to 7. Just so that way it takes less to fill this up than to fill that up. Now, once that's filled up, all nice and proper, once this one's filled up, once again, powers this in order to let the hopper start filling up. Once the hopper's properly filled up, goes right. Yep, it activates this comparator all the way up here to power this cyan wool to power the hopper beneath the furnace. And so that will lock the hopper beneath it. Now, that's nice. It'll open up the stair here, so that way you can access the furnace, and all of that is nicely kept in and locked. However, then I need to detect when you actually take the item out in order to have the whole system reset itself. And that is what this is here for. So, this is actually set to power 6. So that way, once this is all nice and empty, power 6 is enough to detect when only the fuel is in there. So nothing up here, nothing right here, which will then, once that is taken out, this comparator will depower, thus letting this torch power, activating all this lovely stuff to depower this torch, which depowers this redstone, which will unlock the top here. Yes. Of course, this redstone block is still there, so we need to reset it. So, in order to reset it, what we have is a disposal system, which is also powered by this green line. So, once this is depowered, this torch turns on, activating this redstone lamp, activating this observer for 1 tick to pull this redstone block, which unlocks this hopper to start draining this. And because I don't really care about the cactus green, I just have it set to a dropper that spits it into lava right there. If you want to collect the cactus green, feel free, but for the purposes of this, I don't really need it. And then, of course, once this detects that, once this detects that the draining is starting, this whole observer line goes all the way up here to push this piston and have this redstone block reset. And then the whole system goes back to refilling. And the great thing about this is it's completely tileable. So you can have these right next to each other in a 4 by 13 by 12 area. None of it will interact or interfere with the other. Because I wanted to kind of design it around having this lovely little design. It seems like it fits in a 3 wide, but it kind of goes over 1. But that's okay because you can put these right next to each other and there won't be any problems. And now for the tutorial aspect. We're going to start off with detecting when items are taken out of the furnace. So it's this simple green line right here. You have your comparator pulling from the furnace, your lectern with a book set to 6 power, into a repeater with a torch on top. From there, you place your magenta line going into another torch all the way up into here, with the redstone dust, a repeater going into a block, redstone dust on top, target block here, another redstone dust here, with a repeater pointing inward. Now the red here I'm going to show you in 2 parts. So, you have your hoppers leading into the furnace here, and your barrel, which will be filling up with cactus. You have your comparator output into this block, and another comparator going into the side, with a lectern book set to 8. Continuing with the red line, you have another comparator output from this hopper, and once again, lectern set to 8, going into this block with a redstone dust on top, leading into this block to lock this hopper, and a redstone repeater coming out of that target block. And from there, you want to put your piston here, and your block of redstone there. Then, what you're going to want to do is have another line take an output from this target block, repeater into a torch. The reason that you want a repeater rather than redstone dust is 1, you can actually pull the signal from the target block, and 2, you don't want to activate that piston using this. So, that repeater goes into this block, depowers the torch, and then brings it all the way down here. So, redstone dust, redstone dust. It's very important that this is a slab, so that way you're not powering this hopper. All the way down, so you're powering this block, so that way you can take a signal out of it using a repeater into this hopper. And I've locked myself in here. Now this is just the setup for the next line. What you're going to want to do is have your hopper feed to the right into this hopper which leads down into a barrel, like so. Exactly how we did up top. Once again, taking this circuit down here. So this lectern set to 8 into this comparator, feeding into the side of this comparator, reading from this barrel, going into this block with a redstone dust on top, into this block to power this hopper. And here we have a lectern set to 7 into this comparator, into the side of this comparator, reading from this hopper through a solid block, putting its signal into a solid block, upward into a repeater set to 4 ticks of delay, into a block, into another redstone with another repeater set to 4 ticks of delay, into a solid block, right to the hopper beneath the furnace. Now we return to our output from this green line, so we put a redstone dust on top of a solid block, right below here, with a redstone torch on the side, into a lamp, with an observer facing into it, into a solid block with a sticky piston and a redstone block on top of it. Then right here, we have an observer facing left. The observer is facing to the right, but the output is still left, with redstone dust on top, into this redstone dust, through the pink line, in order to power this solid block next to this hopper. And below here you'll have whatever sort of disposal or storage or whatever for all of the cactus green you'll get. Then you simply have the lime line, which consists of just a lime wool and a comparator where this observer is facing. And then we continue the observer train over here into this redstone dust, all the way up here. It's facing the wrong way. There we are. All the way up here into this observer facing this direction, this observer facing up, into this magenta wool, so that way this piston that we now placed can be powered. And if you want to have the automatic indicator when you're ready to pull from the furnace, you place a block right in front of the furnace because it's not currently in use, a sticky piston right underneath it, and from the furnace you have an observer facing into it, into an observer facing the observer, into a solid block to power this piston for 1 tick, into this observer line right around here, all the way down into here, into the ground solid block right here to power this piston. And of course you can decorate it however you like. Mine is just because that's how I wanted it. The only thing you need to manage from here is just this will be your fuel source pipe, this will be your smeltables pipe. So you can hook this up to a cactus farm, this up to a bamboo farm, and from there this will activate once it's ready. I highly recommend you fill the fuel first and you never ever put lava buckets in here, because the bucket will go down into this system and mess up some of these comparators. But fill up your fuel first, then hook it up to a cactus farm, and this is ready to go as soon as the cactus is full. Once it measures out the cactus, everything will automatically activate. Well, yeah, I guess in that case you'll want that down there. But yes, once the cactus is full, everything will automatically activate and your system will be ready to go. I will leave a world download if you'd like to study this in any more detail, or if you'd like to poke and prod at my failed attempt where I tried to use one of Ilmango's pulse extenders to detect when items stopped flowing for a certain amount of time, and then use that to power the... It didn't work out. But yeah, hope you enjoyed, and hope you have a wonderful day. Now, possible improvements that can be made. Number 1, I know that Exhumavoid did something very similar back in 1.13. Uh, Instead of measuring purely using comparators, though, he also partly filled it in with a nonsense item that would just take up space and help have the comparator be wherever you need it to be. And then you'd be able to put an item filter there. That is totally possible. However, for my goals, it would increase the size by quite a bit. Still, though, definitely viable. You can still do that if you don't mind increasing the size by a little bit. Other than that, I'm not entirely sure what further improvements can be made. You'll notice that its footprint is slightly more compact than when I originally showed it off. And some of the things are slightly different. I just thought of some minor little tweaks that I could make to it. But yeah, there's still definitely quite a bit that you can do to improve this system, make it either more compact or a little bit more advanced. But I'm still quite happy with where it ended up. The only real issue is it takes quite a long time for everything to go through, so you're going to need to have a few of these if you want to fully repair your items. Another thing, you could still do AFK XP farms. I know that gold farms are really good for repairing all your items, but that would require you to go to the Nether. I like the convenience of having this on demand and just having it run in the background. Other than that, I'm not entirely sure what other improvements could be made. If you have any ideas, feel free to iterate on this. Like I said, I will leave a world download down below, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day.